severest winter of any place in the country. And I thought, well, I turned to Jim and I said, well, that's pretty good for I'll take this winter. It was so warm. We still had green grass. And I was doing home inspection in January at my new house. And the grass needed to be cut. And the home inspector said that he thought he was going to cut his because it was still lush and green. And then, of course, the storm came and things changed.
Covered it up.
Yeah, mine was greener than ever until the big storm.
Yeah. So I said, I'd take this winter any time. Especially not having to go out and because of snow. Stay home.
So how did you enjoy the snowstorm?
Yeah, because I just stayed home and I had neighbors that came and wanted to earn some money to dig me out, and they had done it before, so in preparing for the storm, I laid in some cash in case they came along. So dug me out.
Very good.
And I really didn't go anywhere for 3 days.
I'm so sorry that you won't be here.
Well,
Very
I
sorry.
love doing it. If there was a way to not live here and do it, I would ask her to stay. But
There's a
that's-
residency requirement.
Yeah, the statute says BZA to be 5 to 7 members selected from among residents of the jurisdictions.
We could have more.
And alternates. When I was at Manassas, they had 7 altogether. They had, I don't remember if it was 5 voting members and 2 alternates. They don't, they maybe meet 3 times a year. They don't have enough cases. They don't have the process. Keep going.
Let's go. It's going to be a long night. Not with Terry.
Good evening and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I am Terry Russell and chairman of the board. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Charles Smith, Inta Malice, and Judy Freshman. BZA member Paul Melnick is absent tonight. Also present is the professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Arlova Vom, Acting Zoning Administrator, Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, and Cheryl Williams, Zoning Technician. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn your cell phones or pagers off and put them in silent mode. On the front table, right over here, you will find copies of the staff report for each case before us this evening. I recommend that if you have not seen the report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. The board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1 and 2 family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meet conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint size and placement are similar to the structures on the properties surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must determine if the administrator acted correctly. This evening, cases will be called, and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of the staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip, which is available on the table in front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. We have deemed the following time limits to be sufficient: 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances. For use permits and variances, we have deemed 3 minutes for representatives of organizations and 2 minutes for individuals as sufficient. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Thank you for being here this evening. Please call the first case.
Thank you and good evening. Our first case tonight is V-11080-15-UP-2, and this is a use permit request by Robert and Kristen Groves to permit a setback of 3.9 feet to the eave and 4.9 feet to the wall of a new one-story addition and landing from the right side property line instead of 8 feet is required, 16.7 feet to the landing and window well, 19.1 feet to the eave and 20.1 feet to the wall of a new one-story addition from the 27th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required, and also 0.2 feet to the eave and 0.8 feet to the wall of an existing rear shed from the rear property line instead of 10 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new one-story front addition, a new front landing with stairs, new front egress window well, and to maintain an existing non-conforming rear detached shed in its current location. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 5100 27th Road North.
Are there any speakers for this item? No speakers?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the use permit V-11080-15-UP2 to the March 9, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second. It's been moved by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Mr. Smith to defer to the March 9th meeting. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries.
The next case is V-11089-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Michael Kunkler and Suzanne Sullivan to permit a setback of 9.5 feet from the right side property line instead of 10 feet is required, and an aggregate side yard of 14.3 feet instead of 18 feet is required. This is for the construction of a new two-story right side addition. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3111 4th Street North.
Are there any speakers for this item? It's with the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the use permit V-11089-15-UP1 to the March 9, 2016 meeting of the BZA.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to defer this case to the March meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next case is V-11093-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Carl Bernstein and Jeffrey Kuck to permit a main building footprint coverage of 29.4% instead of 28% as permitted. Also a total lot coverage of 40.7% instead of 38% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new 2.5-story home. It's in the R8 zoning district on a premises located on the vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street.
All right.
Any speakers on this one?
I do have 2 speaker slips on this one. This is a request to defer. Do the speakers still want to speak at this time or come back next month? This is a March deferral, isn't it? Yes. Come back next month. The speakers are Elizabeth Shallert and David Early. It's a pleasure. Come right on. Thank you. You can speak now, please.
Thank you. David Early, 2263 Upton Street. And I was here in December, so I won't take too much of your time. I'd just like to clarify my opposition to the variance on this. I am open to working with the neighbors and the applicant on the setbacks, but I feel strongly that the variance is not needed to create a high-quality marketable property or home. And I've just wanted to reiterate that. My opposition is on the variance very strongly. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scheller? And I see that you have put in for both cases. Would you like to just combine your thoughts? Okay, thank you.
I have lived at 2256 North Upton Street for more than 40 years. My house is charming, and others of the same style, also were built in 1913. The street is narrow. It doesn't have sidewalks for the most part. And so it's a rather unique street in Arlington. And my house, for reasons I have no way of understanding, was built at the extreme north side of the lot. So I have only 4 feet between my house and the next lot. My late husband and I had wanted to buy some of this lot, but the timing was never right with the previous owner. Because of the unusual nature of our street, and especially because of the position of my house, my family and I and most of our neighbors are quite concerned about the proposal to build a house between my house and 2264. The lot in question is undersized, and the proposed house is very oversized, and they're requesting both a variance and a use permit. The builders and the lawyer have not worked with us as you asked them to do at the December 16th meeting. You asked them to work with us to come up with a reasonably sized and positioned house. Quite the contrary, on January 21st, they had a meeting. We expected to see the plans for a reasonably sized house. But instead, they showed us the same house that they had shown us on November 16th. And they basically told us that we'd better agree to that house because otherwise there would be a house that we liked even less that would probably be built on that lot. Instead of working with us, instead of showing sensitivity to the neighborhood and to the unique situation with my house being so close to the property line, they seem to take a threatening approach. We feel that they're trying to maximize their profits, but in the process, if they were allowed to do this, they would actually cause nearby properties, including my house, to lose value because we would be so crowded I would have a house right outside my window. Residents of North Upton Street have come out to deal with this issue on November 16th, on December 16th, on January 21st, and now on February 17th. Now this is kind of a moot point, but my original piece was a request to you for you to deny this request for variance and use permit and not to prolong it and defer it to another evening. But they've already deferred it. So we got the news just this afternoon that they were asking to have it deferred, which basically happened also in December. So we don't understand what's going on, but we don't appreciate it. So thank you very much for listening to me on this issue. And I do have with me a number of the write-ups from neighbors as well as a petition. There are copies for everyone. Where should I?
Just
To
give
whom
them to
should I
Mr. Knoxon, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Knowles?
A procedural question, and I don't know if it's to you or to staff. When the applicant requests a deferral, are we obliged to defer the matter, or can we hold a hearing?
I believe you can make whatever call you want to on this case. You can defer it, you can approve it, you can deny it. It's at the applicant's request at this point.
What's the pleasure of the board? You wish to speak, Mr. Lawson? I think you raised your hand.
Yes, sir, if I could have a moment.
The representative of this.
Yes, sir, if I could have a moment of your time. Looking at that aerial photograph, the subject property is outlined in red. Last night, we signed a contract to buy the house to the right. And so now we have, that lot is 50 feet wide. The neighboring lot and house are 75 feet wide. We think we can take this additional property and start over, come up with a better design. And so we are trying to accommodate the concerns that we've heard from the neighborhood. And it didn't happen quickly. We had to go through a lot in order to acquire that property. And that's the reason for the request for the deferral.
You don't feel the need to request more time than to March?
Well, we're not sure, Mr. Russell, exactly how we're going to do this. We may be able to do what's called a split lot. We may not be able to. We may try to re-subdivide. We may do easements. We're just not sure yet. We just got the property yesterday.
Mr. Chairman, given the uncertainty, I think March is pushing it, and I think the neighbors have been patient enough to come back several times. So I'd prefer to at least do April in order to make sure that when it comes back the next time, we actually dispose of the case one way or another.
We have a contractual, we have a very tight contract, and that was the reason for the request for March. Drew had suggested April, and if we had more time under the contract for the house and the 3 lots, I would say fine, no problem. But the reason we asked for March is because we're on a tight, we have a very short amount of time.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Another question for Mr. Lawson. Mr. Lawson, it is now, the March hearing is 4 weeks away. Is that basically true?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to submit your new plans to staff by what date?
Let's see. I have my schedule here. I believe he has to get it in by the end of the day on Monday. At least get a plat to us by the end of the day this coming Monday to make the advertisement. Usually I accept the architecturals up to the next week or so.
At what point in that time frame is there an opportunity to engage the neighbors? That's my question.
We've engaged with the neighbors twice, and I've been working with a gentleman who has kind of been heading up the effort with the neighbors, and I've been keeping him advised. As soon as we know what it is we're going to do, then we'll reach out to the neighbors. It may even be by right.
I see.
We just don't know yet.
And the person that's been working with the neighbors, is he known to the speakers that
He
came
should be. His
before
name
us
is
tonight?
Greg, I forget his last name, Angrich.
Okay.
The meeting's 3 weeks away. March 9th, is that right, Drew? March 9th?
Mm-hmm.
So it's 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks that you would have to have a complete set of plans to us, well.
A little less than that even.
Yeah.
But let me make this point. I mean, it sounds like to me that there are contracts
Right.
and there are unknowns. It's been typical of this board, I think, Charles, you've been on here much longer than I have. to accommodate applicants' requests for deferral. If it didn't make any difference, we often say, well, can you go to April? We think there ought to be more time. And many applicants will say, well, that'll be fine, but he's actually cited something that could, and so, it can always be deferred again. I think communication with the neighbors so that they know whether an item is going to be deferred and whether to bother to come out, whether there's a need to come out or not, if that's an issue for them. But that's just my view on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith,
I move to defer V-11093-15-VA-1 to the March 9 meeting of the BZA.
I will second that.
it's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to defer this case to the March 9 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Ms. Freshman voted no. Carries 3-1. Should call the next case, which is also on the same property.
This is the associated use permit V-11093-15-UP-1. This is a request by Carl Bernstein and Jeffrey Cook to permit a setback of 6.4 feet to the eave and 7.4 feet to the wall of the home, 6.9 feet to the porch eave and 7.4 feet to the porch base, 7.5 feet to the rear deck, and 5.1 feet to the chimney, all from the right side property line instead of 13 feet is required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 13.7 feet instead of 21 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new 2.5-story home with a front porch, a right side chimney, and a rear deck. It's in the R8 zoning district on the premises located on the vacant property between 2256 and 2264 North Upton Street.
We've heard from the speakers. Is that fine? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman,
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals defer use permit deed V-11093-15-UP1 to March 9, 2016 BZA.
Second.
it's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith to defer this case to the March 2016 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Our next case is V-10888-14-UP-5. This is a use permit request by Arlene Capusta to permit a setback of 10 feet to the eave of a new third-floor addition from the 21st Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Also to permit a building in excess of 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. It's for a new third-story addition above the existing second-story walls of the building. It's in the R5 zoning district, premises known as 4133 21st Road North.
Are there any speakers for this item? With the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Zoning Appeals defer use permit V-10888-14-UP5 to April 13, 2016 BZA.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice to defer this case to the March 2016 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, April.
April.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2016 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Next case is V-11104-16-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Jeffrey and Patricia Chisholm to permit a setback of 18.8 feet to the eave and 19.8 feet to the porch base from the North Taft Street right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new front porch. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 2124 North Taft Street.
Are there any speaker slips? It's with the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I would like to make a motion to defer the use permit V-11104-16-UP-1 to the March 9 BZA meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Mr. Smith to defer this case to the March 2016 BZA meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And this is our last deferral tonight. This is V-11111-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by William Dean to permit a setback of 8 feet from the rear property line instead of 21 feet as required for the construction of a new rear deck. This is in the R5 zoning district on a premises known as 828 North Wakefield Street.
Any speakers? It's with the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Zoning Appeals defer V-11111-16-UP1 to the March 9, 2016 BZA hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith to defer this case to the March 9th, 2016 BZA meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. This is case number V-11085-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by KR Assets LLC to permit a setback of 9.4 feet to the egress window well, 11 feet to the chimney, and 12.5 feet to the wall of the home from the right side property line instead of 14 feet as required. Also a setback of 9.4 feet to the egress window well, 11 feet to the chimney, and 12.5 feet to the wall of the home from the left side property line instead of 14 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 3-story semi-detached 2-family dwelling with 2 side chimneys and 2 side egress window wells. This is in the R27 zoning district on a premises known as 2003 South Lincoln Street.
Have any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. So as far as what the request, this is a rollover from the last time in February when we, I'm sorry, in December when we originally asked for a height variance. We, it's definitely lessened the proposed construction on many accords. We cut back 10 feet off the backside of it. We dropped the first floor 3 feet underneath the sidewalk level. We lowered all of our ceiling heights in the main and upper level to bring down the height variance, and we've got it actually underneath now the height restriction of it. As you can see from the topo and from the pictures, we're dealing with a serious elevation change from the front to the back, and we're also dealing with a 5-foot elevation change just from the sidewalk level to the front yard. So in purchasing this property, we were hoping that we were going to be able to build the elevation based on proposed grade, not existing grade, and that was a mistake on my part on the beginning. But as you see, we've really tried to close everything down, you know, and try to get it as much into the box as possible, and to be able to keep it with the correct grade and everything and slope for the garage. We can't drop the first floor any bit further down from the sidewalk height than 3 feet.
And I'm sorry, I neglected to ask you to state your name for the record.
I'm sorry, my name's Alex Wilson.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions of the applicant?
Yes, I noticed in the staff report it says there were signatures from neighbors on the original proposal, but no comments subsequent to that. Is there a reason why, given that I would assume your new design is more palatable, that you didn't reach out?
I did reach out, and I do have signed.
Okay,
Just
good.
I apologize.
Let's see them.
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
And your relationship to this property or KR Assets LLC is?
I'm an agent of KR Assets. Yeah, I would have originally been here the last time, but I had a death in the family, so I wasn't able to make it.
Thank you.
any other questions for the applicant? Do we have any speaker slips on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-11085-15-UP1, subject to the conditions stated in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice to approve adopt the resolution granting the subject use permit with conditions. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
The next case is V-11087-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Mustafa Anis to permit a setback of 4 feet to the air conditioning units from the left side property line instead of 5 feet is required, 4 feet to the eave and 5.5 feet to the wall of the home from the left side property line instead of 8 feet is required, 4.5 feet to the eave and 6.3 feet to the wall of the home, and 8 feet to the bay window from the right side property line instead of 10 feet is required. So 24.6 feet to the wall of the home from the North Danville Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required, and then 2.6 feet to the rear stairs from the existing detached garage, and 7.2 feet to the home from the existing detached garage instead of 8 feet is required. Finally, an aggregate side yard of 8.5 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new 2.5-story home with 2 left side air conditioning units, a right side bay window, and a rear stairway. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1814 North Danville Street.
Any questions for the staff? We hear from the applicant, please.
For the record, my name is Barnes Lawson Jr. I represent the applicant. The applicant is fine with the staff report. We agree with the staff report and the suggestion that we move the air conditioner units. This is a situation where this was to be an addition, and you all have the house footprint. This is what the addition is, and that is was designed to be a by right addition. And what happened is we ran into trouble again where they went into the existing house and discovered rotten wood and so forth. Next thing you know, you're not an addition, you're a new house, so we're here for that reason. What is being requested to have relief is putting back what was there. Be happy to answer any questions. And we have the architect here as well in case you have any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Naxon, with the moving the air conditioners, would that change your recommendation?
Yes, the recommendation is just to move them somewhere where they can be by right. They're asking for 4 feet. 5 feet would be by right with some screening around it on the sides.
So the resolution to deny the setback is moot?
Mm-hmm.
That because
Well, it would be the staff recommendation.
you would deny that setback because it's no longer necessary for the project if it moves. Okay.
Well, I guess my feeling would be that they're agreeing to move them, but it is part of the request that's before us, so we should deny that placement.
Yes.
And they have no problem with it, is what it basically comes down to. So it would be the resolution rather than the alternative resolution.
Exactly. Are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move motion that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution denying the setbacks of 4 feet to the air conditioning units, but granting the subject use permit for the other setbacks that are described in the report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Smith to adopt the resolution denying the setback for the air conditioning unit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Repeat the case number.
Didn't get the case number in here,
It's on the top of the front page.
but it wasn't in the motion. So my motion is I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals in case V-11087-15-UP-1 adopt the attached resolution denying the setbacks of 4 feet to the air conditioning units, but granting the subject use permits for the setbacks as described in the staff report.
And that was what I seconded.
Correct. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, this is case number V-11090-15-VA-3. This is a variance request by John Argilopoulos to permit a total lot coverage of 56.2% instead of 37% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new driveway expansion in the front yard. This is in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 4741 Rock Spring Road.
Okay. Could we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Barnes Lawson Jr., and this will take a little bit longer. I apologize for that. My client, the applicant, has unfortunately developed cancer. And when this was before you all the last time, it was for the circular driveway, and it was also for an addition of a garage on the left side of the house. We heard from our neighbors on all three sides, the one behind us, the one to the left, and the one to the right. And based on their comments and their opposition to the garage was removed. The applicant does want to have the driveway in front, and what he wants to do is he wants to be able to put in a ramp so that he can get into the house when his health declines to the point where he believes he'll be in a wheelchair. And in addition to that, this driveway is very dangerous to back out of, and he can't really turn around. I know that Drew said in the staff report there was enough room in the back, but according to my client, that's really difficult. And you also have parking right across the street for Washington Golf Country Club. And so backing out of that driveway is really, I did it a couple times myself, is really very dangerous. And what we have done is we've come up with a circular drive. And if you all don't approve, if Public Works doesn't approve it or you all don't approve it, we have a driveway that comes to the front, and then you can back up and then come out facing forward. With regard to the staff analysis, I've got to challenge the staff a little bit on that. As you all know, effective July 1 of this past year, Cochran was legislatively overturned, and the standard to grant a variance used to be all reasonable use is precluded. That's not true any longer. Now it is reasonable use is precluded. And those that have commented on the new law have said it's a 180-degree change in the standard that you have. As we look at the staff report, on page 3, we have number 1, and that is, with strict application unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And the comment by staff is that, you know, it's already improved with a single-family dwelling, can be used as such, has an existing detached garage, and so forth. I would respectfully submit that being able to have a stop in the front of the house and allow my client to be able to get in that front door, which is much wider than the back entrance, is a reasonable use. Number 2, would the granting of the variance alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property improvements which existed upon the effective date of the zoning ordinance? And what this means is, in my opinion, is the effective date of the zoning ordinance is when the coverage got altered. And this property it complied with the then ordinance, but when the coverage got drastically lowered, it was immediately rendered nonconforming. And so I think that this is addressing a situation that existed when the ordinance was adopted, which is the magnitude of the coverage. On on the next page, page 4, granting the variance will not be a substantial detriment to adjacent property and nearby properties. The staff has indicated that there may be an increase in surface water runoff. I talked to the engineer about that in order to address this with you all. And what the engineer says is that the water, he said, first of all, there'll be a very slight increase in water. The water will come down into the shared driveway. It's different material on each property, but the water will come onto the come onto our driveway and perhaps the corner of the neighbors, I've written a condition that you all can impose if you're inclined to do so. Number 3, the condition or situation of the property is not so general as to make reasonably practical and formulate a regulation which can be adopted as an amendment to the ordinance. And what staff has suggested is that we have same physical characteristics of surrounding lots. And that's not really the standard that you're looking at. The state Supreme Court has said, and the statute says, don't give them relief if you should change the ordinance county-wide. And there was a case from Virginia Beach where that was the situation where they should have done it county-wide. I have some things here I'll share with you. One is the condition that you all could impose should you be inclined to grant this. I have some pictures that I took that I think illustrate the dilemma that the client has. What I'm showing, and I'll hand this to you, is the parking at Washington Golf Country Club. The fact that the right-of-way goes way into my client's property, it's about 12 feet. That looks like it's part of his lot, but it's not. And then the most important picture, I took this as I backed out. And I'll hand this to you, and it's really dangerous. You just can't see down Rock Spring. So I have those things, and I'll share those with you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, one more thing. I have a statement of support from Washington Golf, and I'll hand these out.
Thank you.
I have a question. What is the existing coverage?
You know that right off.
I can tell you real quick.
7.
Find my existing portion here.
I found
46.7%.
bottom of page 2.
Thank you, both of you. Any questions for Mr. Lawson from board members? Ms. Malice?
Just to understand, the plans that we have in our packet that describe the circular loop, is that what you're proposing?
Yes, what I've done is I did an alternative.
Is that, do we have that?
It should be on the plat.
The crosshatch.
I see.
Could I, if I could approach you?
I think I've got, it's the crosshatched area?
Can you see that?
Yep.
You want to do this, and if you all feel like that's too much, or Public Works doesn't approve it, he wants to do this, stop there and then back up and go out front ways. And also, we're showing a gate here, and that's actually not going to be there. Does everybody follow the alternative that we did?
I did.
That's at the 544?
Yes.
Okay.
You, Mr. Barnes, you mentioned, Mr. Lawson, you mentioned neighborhood opposition to the building of the garage.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any support for the plans as they stand now?
No, I did. I went back to all the neighbors and I shared the new plat with them. And I didn't say, would you please support it? But I did say, I hope that this addresses your concern. I don't think anybody would have a problem with putting that little bit of driveway there.
Well,
But I don't speak for other people, so
we do have one letter in our packet. Are you aware of the?
I'm not sure that I am.
Easily?
That was one that was sent in just this afternoon.
Yeah, we have one, a letter from
Can I
Mr.
take a quick look?
Do you have a copy? No. Oh, we also have 2 speakers this evening, so come here.
Do you want to take those now?
if y'all are done, yeah, let's hear the speakers. Have two speaker slips here. Andrew C. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Andrew C. Smith. I live adjacent at 4733 Rock Spring Road. I concur with staff's recommendation to deny. My driveway is part of the common driveway with the applicant. The concerns I have is I've lived in my residence for over 17 years and in the larger neighborhood most of my life. I have no trouble coming to or getting out of my driveway on Rock Spring Road. None. It's not a major thoroughfare, as stated. It's more of a local. 32nd Street, which is behind, is the through street to Military Road and a snow emergency route. The hammerhead that was referenced in the back of the driveway, I've seen the applicant use it as a hammerhead to back into the garage and then pull nose out. He's done it. His kids have done it. When using the existing garage, pardon me, the statement for accessibility into the house, if you look at the picture, there's about 6 or 7 risers to get up into the front door, meaning it's about a 3-foot grade difference from the existing front yard up into the front of the house. In the back of the house, sliding glass door and a side entrance into the house that are all at grade. The house has an elevator in it, so that the accessibility issue, I'm not sure how and why that's being raised. The hardship is stated above. I'm not seeing it. I understand he's ill, and I'm sorry for that. That's a hard thing to deal with. But with this driveway, if you look at my driveway, right now, stormwater crosses about the lower third of my driveway from his driveway. Putting more of the driveway in and coming across my driveway, I think will not only soak the upper part of my yard, but the lower part of my yard as well. If you look at the plan and you look at this picture right here, just coming off of the driveway to get into what is proposed, you're going to have to run at least a 10% grade to get up to and level with where the walkway is coming through, as this shows it. So I'm not really sure how, given just a plat, not an engineered plan, will work. And number 2, I don't agree with any of the statement of justification. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ellen Dwyer.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Dwyer, and I live on the other side of this property at 4747 Rock Spring Road. I wanted to provide a little bit of context to this. We've lived in our house longer than the other neighbors. We've been there over 20 years. And in 1995, when the owner of this property was interested in expanding it significantly, we agreed to a variance to allow him to do that, and that's what got him ultimately to the 46.7% surface coverage. We tried to be very good neighbors. We understood they wanted to expand the house significantly, but at that time, the owner addressed all of the issues that are being addressed to you today. There was a 3-car garage installed. There were 2 doors with ground-level entrances into the home that were provided for at that time. An elevator was installed in the home, and at the time, the owner said quite openly he was anticipating that at some point he would become disabled, and for that reason expanded the home, added the ground-level entrances, and provided for an elevator. So at the time, our view is that we have provided for and agreed to a variance to accommodate all of the considerations that are being raised here tonight. Since that time, there have been significant drainage issues, and we're again on the left side of the property. We're right at the corner, but it's a little difficult to see here, but at the back of this property, there is pavement in every direction. You can see the bit of green grass is in the front yard, which is what's being proposed here to be covered now with an over 900-foot driveway. It's not a little bit of a driveway, it's 900 feet of a driveway and additional pavement on a property that is largely covered by pavement today. We have a drainage issue on our side of the property where the owner installed and built a brick wall at the perimeter of his patio. And so when it rains, there's nowhere for that water to go. It just sits on our property because the brick wall was installed there. So, beyond that, I would say that I've lived in my home for 20 years. I have teenage children who back in and out of that driveway every day. I drive in and out of my driveway every day. Washington Golf and Country Club has been in that location since the 1800s. This is not a case where someone purchased a home and there was an unanticipated issue about ingress and egress safely from these driveways. If you go the entirety of Rock Spring Road, everyone is backing out of their driveway to a person. And as Mr. Smith pointed out, the whole purpose of the owner building the turnaround area in the back was so that he wouldn't have to do that. I think the reality is that there are others, in addition to the 3-car garages, there are other vehicles that park in the turnaround area, which may make it difficult for the owner to turn around. But like the rest of us, what we have to do is we get out, we move cars to accommodate cars in and out of the driveway. So our view is that the justification, again, with all sympathy here to the owner, tremendous sympathy for his condition, but that the property as it exists today fully accommodates the disability that's being alleged. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lawson? I see he's come back to the...
I was going to take a moment and rebuttal, if I could, or clarification.
Yes, sir. I think so.
First of all, the Dwyer house is screened by that hedge, and probably this car won't even be visible. Why they're in opposition, I don't know, but, they speak for themselves. As far as the water runoff, Mr. DeLashman said that a curb can be put on the common property line to direct the water so it won't even touch the neighbor's property. He said he would not recommend that because you might accidentally run your tires on top of it. But we can do this in a way that there won't be any water impact on the neighbor at all. I asked the applicant about the suggested ingress-egress in the back. He said it's a lower level, and this is the level that he wants to come in on. And he said that the elevator just doesn't function the way he would like for it to. He said if you make a bunch of turn movements, you can turn around in the back, but he says it's difficult, and he's trying to make his life easier given his illness. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members?
Oh, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
and while I, like the neighbors, am sympathetic to medical condition, that doesn't provide a basis for me to grant a variance. There hasn't been anything presented, it seems like to me, that describes some problem with the land that would necessitate the granting of a variance. That's kind of where I am on it. And we've had, over the course of the years, a number of these circular driveway questions, and even in more dangerous conditions than this, I recall a case on Carlin Springs, I think, where a gentleman had almost a compelling case. I don't find this to be nearly as strenuous as that, and that was denied. So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals deny the subject variance B-11090-15-VA-3.
I would second that.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to deny the variance request. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Got a use permit?
And we have a motion to withdraw the associated use permit since they're deciding to cancel the addition. Read it out. It is V-11090-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by John Agropolis to permit a setback of 4.5 feet to the eave and 5 feet to the wall from their left side property line instead of 12.2 feet is required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 16.3 feet instead of 24 feet is required. The construction of a new two-story left side garage addition. It's in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 4741 Rock Spring Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals withdraw the use permit V-11090-15-UP1.
Second?
Been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice to accept withdrawal of this case. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next case tonight is V-11088-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Community Havens Incorporated to permit a setback of 15.1 feet to the rear property line instead of 21 feet is required. So the construction of a new rear deck. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 803 North Lincoln Street.
Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. Chris Reinheimer with Community Havens. Here tonight I have two letters of support from our adjacent neighbors that I wanted to provide. And overall, we are happy to accept the recommendation of the staff.
Any questions for the applicant? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just, were you the owner when this house was built?
Our organization has owned the property for over 30 years. This past year, we have constructed a one-level residence. We provide services to individuals with intellectual disabilities, work with the CSB, and we received some grant funds to build a one-level accessible house.
I just was curious, since it was built in 2015, why you didn't build a deck at that time?
Well, we didn't originally, we had plans, and there's an existing ramp out the back for egress, but as we were doing this in a very fast manner to meet some time deadlines, the way things worked out, we didn't get the rear setback correct in our original plans.
Do we have any speaker slips? Okay, there are no speakers. Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-11088-16-UP1 subject to the conditions listed.
Second?
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the use permit with conditions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next case is V-11098-16-UP-1. It's a use permit request by Brian and Catherine Cravella to permit a setback of 13.5 feet to the bay, 15.5 feet to eave, and 16 feet to the wall of a new two-story rear addition and a porch, all from the North Upton Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. So the construction of a new two-story rear addition with a rear porch and a first-floor bay. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 4434 19th Street North.
Questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. Thank you guys for the time this evening. My name is Brian Cravella. My wife and I are applying for this to accommodate our expanding family. We're going to add bedrooms and redo our kitchen. As you can see, we're essentially replacing what is currently a porch, more or less the same footprint. I'd like to agree with the staff's recommendations.
Any speaker slips? With the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit for V-11098-16-UP-1, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to adopt the resolution granting the use permit with conditions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next case is V-11099-16-VA-1. This is a variance request by Elena Keith, and this is to permit a setback of 2.7 feet to the porch, 9.5 feet to the eave, 9.6 feet to the existing home, and a 1/2-story addition from the North Culpeper Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. Also, 8 feet to the 1.5-story right side addition from the right side property line instead of 10 feet is required. 1.7 feet to the eaves and 3.7 feet to the existing home, the 1/2-story addition and the existing porch. Also 2.9 feet to the eave and 4.9 feet to the 1/2-story rear addition from the left side property line instead of 8 feet is required. And also an aggregate side yard of 9.7 feet instead of 16 feet is required. It's all for the construction of a new half-story addition above the existing first floor walls, a new 1 1/2-story rear addition, new right side 1 1/2-story addition, reconstructed front porch, and to bring the existing non-conforming home into compliance with current setbacks. It's in the RA 8-18 zoning district on a premises known as 2116 North Culpeper Street.
We have any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
My name is John Jones, architect.
And my name is Elena Keith, the homeowner. And I'd like to say good evening to members of the Board of Zoning Appeals and distinguished audience.
She also has some more signatures from neighbors. She's been getting almost everybody on the street, and there's over 50 signatures now.
Wow.
That's correct. And I've spoken with Drew regarding bringing them tonight and distributing them to you, if you may allow me to do it now. Thank you.
Good grief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please go ahead and tell us about your project.
Basically, we're going to keep the same footprint on the house. The back where you can see the little like shed roof has to come down. There's structural damage. We cannot use any of that structure there. So we're going to take that down and add 8 feet to the back of the house. Take all the roof off, and we're going to stick frame and put a very steep roof so that we can get 2 bedrooms on the second floor.
I'd like to provide a little bit of history to this property. It was constructed in 1925 prior to the adoption of existing zoning ordinance. And I purchased it about a year ago and 2 months. And since then, immediately following the purchase, a tree fell on top of it, and that resulted in a serious devastation to the property. It took me a while to work with the insurance. They provided initial funding for the construction, and now I'm ready to proceed and bring this property finally to compliance and resolve the situation. So that is very exciting for me. I'm very involved in this project and happy to have all the support from the community and architectural firm and other professionals who are involved in this project.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
how
sir.
many total letters do you have here?
It's about 100 signatures collected. Lots of neighbors lots of neighbors came to me and
Close to it.
asked to rebuild this house.
Yeah, it's in bad shape.
Yes.
Well, it's commendable that you had contact with both. It's,
Civic Association president.
or more.
I was visiting her yesterday.
We do have speakers on this item. We ready to hear the speakers? Okay, why don't you sit down, and we'll hear the speakers. Stephanie Derrick. Welcome.
Hello. I'm coming to the board to request that you deny the variance that is being requested for this property. I live a couple doors down. I've watched this property for the last 6 years. It's sat vacant, it's sat vandalized. There's been little care by the previous owner and by the current owner. It is a blight on our neighborhood, does need to be replaced, but the variance I wish not to be granted for several reasons. One, I believe that it limits the sidewalk expansion for public safety. If you look at the aerial view, you'll notice that the Heidelberg sidewalk, which gets a lot of traffic, extends across their property, but then you are forced to walk into the street and then around the property fences between these two properties to then re-enter on the sidewalk. If we allow the house to be built there, I don't know how we're going to build a transitional sidewalk to allow all the pedestrians that come from Lee Highway and from the school across the street without us being forced out into the street to move around. As well, in noticing the left side or the west side of Culpeper, if this house is continued to be able to build right on the sidewalk, it will be the closest property built on the sidewalk of the entire street, all the way from Lee Highway all the way down to 17th, which would then limit any ability we would have for any infrastructure growth within our properties. So if you wanted to expand, let's say, sewers or sidewalks or curbs, that one property would then inhibit its right-of-way would be in the way of us being able to do that. I'd also like to clarify that there was no community discussion on this property. It was scheduled to be presented at our meeting for the Civic Association in January, which was canceled due to snow. My understanding in speaking to our Civic Association president yesterday was that it was slated for the February meeting, which is next week. The executive board of our association meets tonight, and she informed me that that the owner has not provided the requisite materials for the presentation for next week, which was due today. So the community has not been able to address the variance. I believe also, too, that there are a couple errors in the application. One is I want to point out that the structure was not damaged by a storm, which is stated several times throughout the application. I personally watched the owner remove trees, each one on a Sunday after Heidelberg Bakery had closed, and one of them fell on her own house. When that happened, I took pictures, which I'll supply to you. I also contacted the police officers Richard Kelly and Cesar Ruiz of the Arlington County Police Department on that Monday to ask them questions about it, and I also contacted the zoning office about the condition of that property and the tree falling in the house. I suspect there was subsequent wind damage and additional property damage because the tree sat there for a few days and before it was done, and so stuff was happening. There's been on a tarp on it for the last almost year, so I'm sure there has been more damage. The second one in the packet that I was able to get online, which is another erroneous fact, is that the signatures that were included were for the use permit application, not the variance. I personally was approached by the owner and asked, and in her presentation to me of what she was going to do, she said that she was going to build a beautiful new house. When someone says, I'm going to build a beautiful new house, of course I say, yes, that is wonderful, because we have had this awful house there for 6 years. It's not that I'm going to, request these kinds of variances. I'm not going to inhibit the sidewalks, and that I'm requesting all these changes which don't adhere to the rest of our neighborhood. The signatures that are included with the application are actually ones from my neighbors, which are you can see the aerial view, the townhouses are renters, not owners. I live in those townhouses right there. And I'm the only owner occupied in that right now, and the other ones are just renters, kind of young kids, and who have signed those petitions. I also then asked questions when she approached me, if she was going to contact Heidelberg Bakery or if she's going to contact the owners of the garden apartments, which adjacent her property, and she said that she had not reached out to them, and that she had no intention of doing that. So with that, I don't think that there has been good community engagement. I would question the signatures. If I took a look, I could probably tell you where or with those people live, actually in our neighborhood. I know she has been going to different community events and soliciting anybody who lives within Arlington County. So I'd like to give you my full statement and my pictures.
Please. Thank you. Carla Buchler, please.
Hi, my name is Carla Buchler, and my husband and I own the Heidelberg Pastry Shop, which is directly next to this property. My first objection is our delivery driveway is immediately next to where she wants this variance, and I think it could be a dangerous thing, reducing the setbacks, because we have large delivery trucks, and we have the big trash trucks lifting up our dumpster, like that. The other point I want to make is Elena is doing this in her name, and 2 years ago when she purchased the property, she purchased it in the name of Heidelberg AG LLC, which has caused a lot of confusion, and she has been subsequently banned from our property because she was conducting dubious business. There's also a fraud investigation against her through the police. I don't have any other objections. It's nice to have a new house built and all of that, but I don't know that she's quite as open and forthcoming with information as she should be. And that's all.
Thank you. All right, that was the last speaker. Let me ask just a question for the record. In terms of the front of the house, the front corners, you can sit down for now.
And I'd like to ask, may I please address some of the comments that I've heard tonight?
Yes. Oh, I thought she was going to.
Later, I guess.
Okay. Without me looking through the papers and remembering what is the left front corner, the one I'm seeing here in this picture, that's the right front corner.
Correct. Right.
Changing?
No.
So these variances are to keep the footprint of the house that's here.
There's going to be there's going to be expansions. There's going to be expansion to the right side. There's going to be expansion above and behind.
Did you
So
do
really-
okay. Did you do an analysis of what could be built by right under RA 818 on this lot?
Nothing. Nothing can be built by right on this lot because it's RA 8-18. They tear the house down.
Single family.
They have to meet 60 feet of width and 6,000 square feet of lot area.
So all you can do with it is nothing can be built on it?
No.
Did I hear that correctly? Nothing?
Not without a variance.
No apartments, no house, no nothing. So the only alternative that someone who owns this property with an existing residence on it is to fix it up or to get variances to add to it or to get variances to build an apartment building or something else that's allowed under the. Some of those things that would be needed cannot be approved by the board as well, probably,
Exactly.
like parking or something I can't think of right at the moment.
Can I just add to your list?
Yes, please.
Is it, or it would require a rezoning?
That too, but I don't see how that would be possible. That would probably be illegal spot zoning.
Right.
Because this is surrounded by a larger RA district.
Or it could be combined with another piece of property and perhaps be developed.
Exactly.
For example, say the property behind it looked like it was underdeveloped. And I don't know whether we would need an analysis to even know that that would work.
Yeah, I think because of the width, they can't really do anything. Even if they added that other property, they're still going to have a width issue to build anything, apartments, a single-family dwelling, anything.
That case to the legislature. Thank you for answering my questions.
Mr. Chairman, one of
Mr. Smith.
And that orange sticker says that it's not habitable right now.
Correct.
So it has to be fixed or torn down.
Exactly.
Sounds like a hardship.
Yes, which would render, which fixing it or, well, tearing it down would render the property with
That's a taking.
less value without being combined with another property.
Which is speculative at best.
Is the Heidelberg Bakery C2?
Let me check real quick, I can tell you.
report.
Yeah, I believe it is.
It's
Yeah,
C2.
no, I'm just not looking at it.
It's,
I'm getting as much work out of staff before I leave as I can.
So the house could be built with a variance in a different location on this lot,
Yes.
but they're choosing to maintain the same location. Is it
Utilize some of the existing
utilize some of
structure.
the existing structure? But they would need a variance to build it in another location as well.
At all setbacks, they would still need a variance just to build on the lot.
I am persuaded, I don't know that there's any public works comment or anything, but I am persuaded about the fact that it intrudes so drastically into the sidewalk and for any potential infrastructure. To that extent, I would prefer a variance for a new house, so that at least, for safety concerns and sidewalk concerns and that sort of thing. But that's not what we're being asked to do. If this is denied, then presumably the applicant can look at demolishing it and coming in for another variance for a new house.
Mr. Chairman, my point of view is that this amounts to actually probably the clearest case of the
Application of the-
hardship amounting to a confiscation that I've ever seen. And you're really faced with someone who's applied for a variance to really fix a non-conforming structure. And I don't see any way around it. I can't say no and force them to, where then now they have something they have to demolish that they can't build on it. So, and yeah, maybe they could build somewhere else, but that's not the plan we have in front of us.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's, this is, it's really, this is almost like a law school exam or a bar exam question. It really fits the taking criteria.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Do you have Mr. Knoxon, do you have information as to where the county's right-of-way is in relation to the sidewalk, existing sidewalk?
I'll tell you. No, actually, the plat doesn't show that. Sometimes they show us where the existing sidewalk is, sometimes they don't. So we really can't guess to where it is. It looks to me like the sidewalk does not come onto the property. So the property line is most likely right at the edge of the property line, right at the edge of the sidewalk. Mm-hmm.
And I agree with what Mr. Smith is saying. I was only saying in a perfect world, it would be a good alternative, but I do think that this is a classic case of there's not much you can do, and I can think of places in Old Town and in D.C. where you have to, you have a similar kind of encroachment on the sidewalk, but the properties are protected.
In Arlington, we have,
Sure.
along Lee Highway up there, we have.
It's not just big trees. It's often structures. So it's just, unfortunately, that's what's there.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with the evolution of a community. And sometimes you can't get to perfect. The issue of access for Heidelberg is, I'm not sure how that plays into this. There's no change for access to Heidelberg at this point being proposed?
Sorry.
The access to Heidelberg doesn't change under this
I don't see why it would.
plan.
That was why I was asking about the left front corner. If that's the way it has been, apparently since 1910 or whenever the place was built, and that's not apparently changing, so according to the staff. And I think, I was going to make the point that we have houses close to sidewalks and so forth in Arlington, and it's usually because of zoning ordinances and streets have overtaken buildings that were built. I guarantee you that street was not that wide. And knowing the history of the Public Works Department in Arlington County, it probably doesn't need to be that wide. And there is a sidewalk. We have places where there aren't continuous sidewalks. Sidewalks come and go. I own two pieces of property. One has a sidewalk and the other one doesn't. So you get to the end of the first and you cross the street.
So the speaker was saying there was a disconnect right around here in that corner, but that's an existing.
I was looking for a better picture.
We can go back to one of the front views, probably see it. We might have one looking from the left side, maybe, the left front.
Is that driveway we're looking at, the Heidelberg driveway?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the existing, no, the car's in
The other
way.
side.
It doesn't go far enough.
Yeah, it doesn't go far enough over.
Maybe we have a rear view facing Culpeper Street that, let's see.
No.
Keep going up one more. The other one.
Can't see it.
I think we have one that shows it really. Yeah, you can't really see it on either of those.
Okay.
Please.
Mr. Chairman,
I don't want to stay here all night.
I move that in the case of V-11099-16-VA-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the variance for this property, subject to the conditions listed below.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to grant the variance as requested with conditions. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. No. Well, that's not listed.
Okay, the next case is V-1110016-UP, or 16-VA-4, excuse me. This is a variance request by Toby McIntosh to permit a setback of 10.8 feet to the areaway, 13.3 feet to the eave, and 14.8 feet to the wall of the one-story addition and two-story addition in the existing building, and also 14.8 feet to the eave and 15.8 feet to the porch space from the 9th Road right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Then also 15.8 feet to the eave and 16.7 feet to the porch space, 24.7 feet to the wall of the home from the North Irving Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. And finally, 1 foot to the shed from the rear property line instead of 10 feet as required. This is all for the construction of a new 2-story rear addition, a new 1-story rear addition, a rear porch, a left side areaway, a rear chairlift structure, and to bring the existing building and front porch into compliance with current setbacks. This is in the RA 8-18 zoning district on a premises known as 917 North Irving Street.
Do we have any questions for the staff? This is another case of it needs to be a variance in RA 818 because we don't have the ability to approve use permits in RA 818. I might take privilege at this point to recommend that the staff look into crafting a use permit option for existing single-family dwellings in RA 818 districts that cannot otherwise be built because, so that they're not variances and they don't have to meet the variance standards.
Staff has actually looked into that. We had a recent discussion with the planning division, and so far, just structural alterations may be what goes forward. They're not sure if they're going to put it on the work list because it would take a lot of research, but that is a possibility in the future, but I think that's on the back burner for now because of the workload they already have. So I'm not sure if they're going to study it in 10 years or 3 years at this point.
Well, I would suggest to my colleagues and fellow citizens that it needs to come from perhaps the BZA members or the community or the legal community in the county to look into something like this because I understand the priorities usually come down from the county board for things like this, if not initiated, or at least requested by citizens or appointed boards. And there's probably nobody in the county more interested in it than homeowners of RE 818 properties and the Board of Zoning Appeals. Everybody else probably go, oh, that's not my job. Thank you. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Howdy. I'm Toby McIntosh. This is my wife, Melissa Hancock. Our goal here is to build an addition that would allow us to have a large enough bathroom and another bedroom so that we could bring my parents to live in our house, and also so that we could eventually age in place in this location where we've lived for some time. I have some petitions for neighbors, all of the immediate adjacent owners support the application.
Thank you.
Are you sure you want to bring your parents to be so close to that wild Clarendon place?
They might want to pub crawl.
Wait until after.
They might pub crawl.
Wait until after the next month's pub crawl.
They're 91 and 96, but yeah, we're certainly aware of the challenges, but there's no room for them otherwise, and this would be an extension out the back that extends along the existing side of the house that would provide a lift at the back and enough room for them to live and a bathroom that's sufficient.
So I'm trying to find the paper I want to look at. So you're extending what is the existing line along 9th Road North straight on back?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have any questions of the applicant? Speaker slips, Cheryl? Thank you. With the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
if this property were subject to use permits, would this request be within the realm of what might be approved in a use permit?
I would say most likely. I mean, usually staff won't support any closer than 15 feet to a right-of-way. Obviously, the BZA has been known in certain occasions to approve it if it's in line with the building, so it's possible.
Yes, to me, the hardship, it's a single-family house in RA 818.
On the corner, too.
On the corner, in which if it were a use permit, we've done extensions, extending the line that's already established. It does make more house on the lot, but it doesn't encroach further towards 9th Road North. We've just had a lesson in RA 818, difficulties for single-family homes. And, you know, what else are they going to do? In order, I mean, they might be forced to move in order to take their parents in. Board members?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I find that the narrowness, the fact that it's a corner, those are unusual conditions that demand some relief from a strict application of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals grant the request for a variance, the alternative resolution for approval for V-11100-16-VA-4, subject to the conditions that are described in the alternative resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the alternative resolution granting the variance as requested. All those in favor say aye.
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 Next case tonight is V-11101-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by John and Ann Parcell to permit a setback of 4.2 feet to the new one-story addition, 3.7 feet to the deck from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and also an aggregate side yard of 19.6 feet instead of 24 feet as required. It's for the reconstruction of a one-story rear sunroom addition and a rear deck. It's in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 3737 North Vermont Street.
What they're proposing to do is replace what's there right now, to put it in short and sweet terms, correct?
Exactly.
Except what's there now is a little off as far as the deck is concerned.
There's a change?
The deck was, kind of showed up mysteriously.
Well, do you have any questions for the staff, board members? Okay, then let's hear from the applicant, please.
Ray Novitsky, the architect.
And John Parcell, my wife and I are the owners of the property.
As you see, the original house was constructed in 1958 with an open carport on the south side. At some time with a previous owner in the past, part of the carport was enclosed into a sunroom and the deck was put off the back. We are essentially asking to rebuild what's there in the current configuration. However, after conferring, we have agreed to make sure that the deck addition, or the new deck, when installed, would be in conformance with the current zoning setback.
With the resolution.
What was that?
What change would that be from what we have before us?
The configuration would probably, instead of having the deck come out at a diamond, would go straight back.
A rectangular.
Probably rectangular. We were just talking about maybe reconfiguring the deck a little bit so the stairs come down at a better place than they do now to grade. The deck is a full story off grade.
Thank you for that information.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smith.
But the stairs, if reconfigured, would not come down into the side yard?
No, sir.
They would go into the main yard?
Right.
Correct.
Anything else, board members?
Well, Mr. Chairman, yeah, now I guess my question then to the architect is, in that coffin-shaped It's 4 feet 1/2 inch to the side yard. What would, if that were a straight line, you know, a four-sided, I presume you're going to have two sides on the interior and one side on the exterior, or would it be the rectangle? And if it was, what would the side yard be? It would be less than the 4
It would be
feet,
less than
1/2
4
inch.
feet. Most likely, it would comply with the zoning ordinance in that it would extend into the required side yard by a little bit, but still leave at least 5 feet.
Okay.
And 5 feet is permitted by right for decks.
Right.
So staff, you're satisfied that if they just essentially withdraw the request for the deck piece of this, that they can do a good-sized deck
By right.
without getting to that point and then having to come back to the BZA?
That's correct.
Okay. So that,
We
so,
we are happy with the resolution as proposed by staff.
okay,
Okay.
very good.
You won't need the setback.
We have no speakers.
And on page 3, we are not a group home, as the last statement indicates.
It was a group home before we bought the front. It's a single-family residence now.
Oh, utilized as a group home.
Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution in case V-11101-16-UP-1, granting, denying the use permit.
It's really approval of the sunroom, denial of the deck.
Denying, adopting the resolution granting the use permit, but denying the setback of 3.7.
Which is to the deck.
Sorry?
That's, the 3.7 is to the deck.
Right, 3.7 to the deck. Do I need to clean up that motion?
Is there a second?
Well, second, this is the approval of the sunroom addition, denial of the deck.
Yes.
Correct.
And those are the.
As recommended by the staff.
Yes.
Do I have a
I
first,
seconded
second? Mr., okay, it was moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Mr. Smith to adopt the resolution denying the setback of 3.7 feet to the deck, but granting the use bit for the other items as recommended by the staff. Okay.
And
That's
that
perfect.
includes the 5-foot setback to the deck?
The
That's
deck
by
is
right.
denied. The deck setback is denied, which
'Cause-
allows you to do a by right deck.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you do not need any BZA approval for a 5-foot setback to the deck.
Okay, great, thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion granted.
Thank you.
Okay, this is case number V-11102-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ann and Richard Barzotto to permit a setback of 4 feet to the landing and stairs, 7.7 feet to the eave, and 8 feet to the wall of the one-story addition from the left side property line instead of 16.1 feet is required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 11.9 feet instead of 24 feet is required. So the construction of a new one-story garage addition and a new left side stairway. This is in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 4822 Yorktown Boulevard.
Any questions of the staff? Just have as many cars as I do. Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Richard Barazana, Sr.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm Kelly Maurer with Moser Architects.
No questions.
Do we,
I guess the recommendation says that they would recommend approving the we're doing a one-story master bedroom addition on the left side of the property. Underneath it will be a garage, and essentially we're just asking to move the stairs to the left side of the property for access to the backyard.
Any questions from the board? No speakers? It's your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution in V-11102-16-UP1, granting the use permit subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to adopt the resolution granting the use permit with conditions. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, the next case is V-11103-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Dennis Quinn. This is to permit a setback of 14.5 feet to the eave and 16.5 feet to the porch base and second-story addition from the easement for public street purposes along 23rd Street North instead of 25 feet is required. Also 1 foot to the barbecue from the rear property lines to 25 feet is required. 2 feet to the barbecue structure from the right side property lines to 8 feet is required. So the construction of a new front porch with a second-story addition above the porch and an addition above the existing first-floor walls, and also to maintain an existing barbecue structure in the rear yard. It's our 6th zoning district, premises known as 5504 23rd Street North.
Any questions of the staff? Okay, can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dennis Quinn. I'm the owner applicant. We agree with the staff approval, with the staff recommendation, as to the front porch. We appreciate that. I've got one issue with the barbecue in the back. I've lived in the house for almost 13 years. The barbecue was there when I bought the house. My guess, it's been there for 50, 60 years. It looks like something from the 1950s. I've never used it. I have no intention of ever using it. I would be happy if that were gone tomorrow. My only concern is paying for the demolition. The project I have going on with the house is, as you can imagine, rather expensive. I just really don't have room in the budget right now to pay for the demolition and the removal of the stone and the repairing of the patio. I probably will remove this someday. I just would ask that I don't be required to do that now. So I'd ask that you approve the alternative resolution.
Board members have any questions?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, my only comment is the adjacent neighbor did sign a letter saying he supports the project. I'm not sure that the barbecue was highlighted one way or the other.
No, that's his responsibility.
And the other neighbor that would be impacted is behind the property, and applicant probably didn't think to engage the person behind the property since the main part of the project does not affect them. He did get signatures from all the others that affect the main part of the project. So I mean, it's an existing condition. I don't have a problem with it.
Other board members?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with it either. I'm a little amused by the owner's rationale. Just doesn't have the money to take it out. So he's going to leave it. I see you have alternatives there.
It certainly is hideous. But it apparently was there when he bought the property, and it was hideous then. And even though you may be involved in an expensive project now, and I'm sympathetic, you had 12 years to take it out. I probably am not going to make a last stand on it, but I do think that as a general rule, ignorance is no excuse, and the other guy did it is no excuse either. Just, I would, if we couldn't actually put a condition saying, okay, you don't have to do it now, but you have to do it in a certain amount of time, you should get rid of it. And the sooner the better. The fact that there's a stockade fence and nobody can see it, not an issue either.
Can I have a motion?
Sure. In the matter of V 11103-16-UP1, move the alternative resolution approval as advertised, subject to conditions.
Second.
I didn't catch exactly what you're approving.
The alternative, which is it keeps the barbecue.
Keep the barbecue.
As ever, yeah, for now.
Yeah, if I can make a comment, I can imagine that the expense of the construction projects going on. On the other hand, you'd never have a better time to have somebody on your property doing work who could knock this thing out. That's right. To get somebody to later on to come in and do that job, they're going to charge you a whole lot more than the guy with a runaway front end loader taking it out for you. So. And dumpsters on site. And dumpsters. And yeah, anyway, I'm not going to fall on a sword for it either. So, okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the request as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, the next case is V-11105-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Sandra and Edmund Moglica to permit a setback of 4.3 feet to the eave of a new second-story addition, 4.6 feet to the egress window well, and 8.4 feet to the two-story rear addition from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required, 5.1 feet to the eave and 6.6 feet to the front porch space, and 5.1 feet to the eave and 6.7 feet to the wall of the two-story front addition, and 2.9 feet to the covered stoop and stairs from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Then also an aggregate side yard of 5.9 feet instead of 18 feet is required, and this all for the construction of a new two-story rear addition, a new two-story front addition, eave overhangs for a new second-story addition above the first floor walls, a new front porch, a new right side covered stoop with stairs, and a new left side egress window well. This is in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 1811 North Highland Street.
Are there any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please? Hello.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Moglitza, the applicant and the homeowner. Just a little history. We purchased the property 5 years ago. We have 2 small children in the public schools here in Arlington. We plan to stay here. Unfortunately, we've outgrown our home, and we're trying to do a few things that would accommodate a better living as well as provide some safety measures to our home with provided the lot size and slanted lot that we're on and the grading towards the street. So my architect is here with me today to explain what we're asking for, and I appreciate your consideration and what you've approved so far, and we're just concerned about the south side of the house here, where the board has basically voted or is looking towards denying us keeping our existing covered porch on the right side of the home, as well as the stoop that was there when we purchased the home. We're just asking that we could keep a covered stoop, since that door has been in existence, I'm assuming forever, on the home. And it conforms to, believe it or not, all the other neighborhood homes. Everybody has a side entrance. It's convenient and safe. I'm not sure if you're familiar with North Highland Street. This is a very busy street where people commute to and from the bars, to and from public transportation. We love the community. We don't want to move. It is a busy street, but it's important that hopefully we will be able to accommodate or have a side entrance for our home. We're not particularly in love with what's currently there and what we bought, and we are looking to make it something smaller so that we can have access to and from the garage with our lawn equipment, our bikes, so that our children don't have to take things up and down the stairs on the right side. We would have almost a 3 feet walkway that we could actually access without having to take a lawnmower up and down stairs to and from the front yard, as well as the kids' bikes, which is a little hard to see there on the right side of the home where the fence is. And being that it is a busy street with a lot of foot traffic, I feel safer, and we'd like to use and continue using that side door. That's the walk-up on the left side of the home from the basement. We would like to be able to have a side entrance to use to come into the home for safety reasons.
So I'm Heidi Fitzharris, I'm the designer, and I just wanted to explain that, as Sandra just said, there is an existing side covered entry that is 0.9 feet off the property line. What we're proposing to do is keep the existing door, but we're actually raising the floor height, because right now the first floor at the rear of the property is actually below grade. So we're going to raise it up, and to do that we actually need to do a new stoop because we have to add a new riser. But we're reducing it. Instead of 0.9 feet off the property line, we're proposing to have it at 2.9 feet off the property line, which makes it a 4-foot stoop. But the stairs in front, there's an existing basement window there that the stairs come down in front of. So that's why we have to hold it off the house a little bit. So to get a 3-foot wide with the handrail, we're making it as tight as it can be. And we want to thank you for the staff's recommendations on everything else, but this is the one item that we just wanted to request further discussion on.
So at 2.9 feet, it's 35 inches or 33 inches or something like that.
And right now, the stoop goes all the way to their fence line is actually in off their property line. Right now, their stoop covers the entire side. So as Sandra was saying, they can't actually even walk back and forth. So we're making improvements, but we want to keep the idea of the covered stoop there, but we're reducing it in scale.
Putting these like 2.9 feet, 5.1 feet, it's kind of like combining metric and English, and you can't tell which one either one is. I'd rather we did 2 feet, 9 inches or 8 inches, whatever.
As opposed to a decimal or 12s.
Or just do metric.
Versus architects, yeah.
Inches.
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Smith.
I just want to point out that the stairway to go upstairs is right there also, as soon as you come in on this side, correct?
Correct.
And to go down in the basement.
No, so this is on the north side of the house, this is to go to the basement here. This is the north side, this is not the side.
From the inside?
I'm sorry, so this is looking at the picture here, this is the north side of the house. The street side, which is Lion Village Park, is directly in front of the tall fence.
This is on the other side of the house.
Correct.
From the stoop that is 9 inches off the...
Okay, yes, that's on the other side.
Talking
of
about on
the
the
house.
inside of the house from where the stoop is, that's at issue. Isn't in your basement, to enter into the basement from
No.
inside? You can't enter from inside at all. You have to go outside to go into the basement?
No.
Correct. So We have two entrances on the side of the house. Looking at the home here on the south side of the house is where the stoop is in question. There you see that little overhang that's there, that existing. We're asking to keep a covered stoop there and steps because...
How do you get to in the basement, you get to...
You're talking about the interior stairs.
Yes.
The future interior stairs. So, Sandra, they're talking about right here.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes, so the staircase that we will have, the new staircase will go upstairs and then downstairs to the basement.
And you'll have and if you can keep the stoop, and you'll have an exit to go outside right there.
No.
So the
Yeah, through the mudroom.
You're talking about the same thing.
The new interior stair, the landing, are you trying to create that? It will be below grade. If you look at the south side elevation on A13, the whole lot is sloping down towards
Right.
the street. So at that point, the interior stair landing is below grade. Half a flight down.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have any speakers.
We did end up...
Oh, no, it is different.
End up getting signatures from both neighbors adjacent to this neighbor that's right here on our south side and our north side. As we're friends with the whole block, we're very fortunate to have lovely neighbors and friends here, but we do, we have a fence that's there. So our current stoop goes right to the fence line, which is inside of our property line. It's a fence that's been there since the 70s. And we talked to them about removing it with possibly later after our renovation. And of course, they're like, we don't like a fence between us anyways. However, we just would like a smaller stoop, and which would create a small walkway as well. But most importantly, just to have a side access to the house is very important, which we currently have. I don't know how else we would get in that door if we didn't have a staircase.
Okay. Any comments from board members or a motion, perhaps?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor of the stoop. So therefore, I would move, if you would take a motion now, approval of the alternative resolution, which is seeking approval of what was advertised. And therefore, I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternative resolution approving what was advertised in the case of V-111-05-16-UP1, subject to the conditions that are listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the use permit as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's case number V-11106-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Stephanie Bogdanovic to permit a setback of 23.6 feet to the addition from the rear property lines to 25 feet is required. So the construction of a new cantilevered second-story rear addition. It's in the R10 zoning district on a premises known as 2513 23rd Road North.
Do we have any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Keith Ross. I am here to represent my wife, Stephanie Bogdanovich, who could not be here this evening.
Thank you.
And we do accept the staff's recommendations.
And you, sir?
Sean Azimian, Michael Nash Company, builder.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
The usual question, no signatures from the neighbors?
Unfortunately, not yet. All our neighbors do know that we had put in for this, and actually a couple of neighbors were sympathetic that we had to wait for the variance in order to do the addition to help us with our growing family. So they do know about it.
Your immediate neighbors, by chance?
Yes.
Motion?
Please.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-11106-16-UP1, subject to the conditions in the resolution.
Been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Mallett to approve the use permit with conditions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case is V-11107-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Eric and Jamie Atala to permit a setback of 3.8 feet to the eave and 5.1 feet to the rear porch base, 3.4 feet to the eave of the new second-story addition, and 4 feet to the eave and 5.3 feet to the wall of the new two-story rear addition from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required, 17.3 feet to the eave and 18.6 feet to the front porch base, and 19.6 feet to the eave of a new second-story addition from the 19th Street right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required, and finally an aggregate side yard of 14.3 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new second-story addition above the existing first-floor walls, new two-story rear addition, the reconstruction of an existing front porch, and a new rear porch. It's near our 5 zoning district on a premises known as 1032 19th Street South.
Have any questions for the staff? Could we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Atala. I'm here with my husband, Eric Atala. We're the homeowners. We bought the house 6 years ago when it was just the two of us. Since then, we've added a yellow lab and 2 little girls. And we really love our neighborhood, and we just need a little bit more space for our growing family. And we're kind of seeing the future with 2 little girls. We want them upstairs with us so they're safe and sound. And our designer, Rob Schindler, is going to speak on some things.
I will fill out a slip in a moment. Rob Schindler, Main Street Design Company. I did the design work for the house. And while we're thankful for staff approval or recommendation to approve, we do have a concern with the recommendation of decreasing the overhangs on just the left-hand side. It would result in 4 different overhangs. Because the building is offset from the property, the 4-foot dimension for the overhang would result in a 0.7, 0.11, and 0.13 overhang difference on that left-hand side. What we would like the board to consider is to maintain the consistent overhang around the entire property, and what we were asking for was 16 inches or 1.3 feet.
Thank you.
And that's really, Mr. Chairman, owing to the house being not flush with the sides, not parallel. It's at an angle. It sits at an angle on the lot.
Correct. And a 1.3-foot overhang would allow for some architectural detail underneath the eave. We're looking to maybe just put a few corbels or brackets underneath the eave to add a little bit of detail to a relatively modest addition. We're trying to keep budget down and costs in check.
This was built in 1935, and for all we know, the builder site was kind of, and it was good enough at that point. Now we get into all of these exact things. It is parallel to the front.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. I used to have a house like this where the lot was messed up and the house was off center because it was parallel to the street. And the sides were wacky.
Okay. Any questions or? Your motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt in B-11107-16-UP1 the alternative resolution seeking to approve as advertised what's been requested, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report, however.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the use permit as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Next case is V-11108-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Michael and Barbara Fleming. This is to permit a setback of 7.7 feet from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and this is to maintain a two-story left side addition that was built in error. This is in the R10 zoning district, premises known as 4622 Ditmar Road.
Questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please? Did you have a question? Oh.
Just happy to.
Good evening. I'm Mike Fleming. I'm the homeowner. And want to point out that this was built in around 2010. And to be quite honest, I don't know how we made this mistake. As you can see, the side yard is the house is not parallel to the lot line. And as a result, it just nipped back southeast corner. And I believe it's only 1.3 square feet that is in the setback. And we didn't discover this until 2014 because of the development behind us. Their survey was saying that their fence line was further over, and then we had it resurveyed, and it turned out we actually gained more land. But I'm not sure exactly if that had an impact on this line going here, but it did show that this southeast corner was encroaching into the setback. I do have a letter from our very good friends and neighbors, David and Karen Rosenbaum, which is the house that's right next door that is impacted by the encroachment. And they're more than happy to recommend approval of this. I did not ask the Gardners on the other side because they had just recently sold the house and sold it to a developer who is in the process of rezoning that lot into 2 more lots. So I'm not sure exactly what the status over there is.
Any question from the applicant? Ms. Freshman?
Ready? I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-11108-16-UP1, subject to the conditions.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the request as requested. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion carries.
This is case number V-11109-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Matthew and Kelly McFarland to permit a setback of 22 feet to the 2-story addition from the North Oakland Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. It's for the construction of a 2-story rear addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 3802 North Pershing Drive.
Any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, sir. I'm Matt McFarland. My wife Kelly and I own the house, and we are the applicants. We bought the house in 2012, and as our boys continue to grow, we wish to increase the size of the house. Based on the dynamics of the lot narrows towards the rear of the house. So as we add an addition onto the back of the house, there would be a modest encroachment, and we want to keep the original structure intact as much as possible to maintain the look of the neighborhood. So that's why we are asking for your consideration this evening.
Any questions of the applicants? Certainly an odd-shaped lot, albeit corner at the same time. Ms. Malice?
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I move that in case V-11109-16-UP-1, that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the resolution granting the use permit, subject to the conditions.
Second.
I'm going to recognize Ms. Freshman. Ms. Ballas made a motion, and Ms. Freshman seconded it to approve the use permit as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thanks for your help.
The next case is V-11110-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by MR Project Management Incorporated. This is to permit a setback of 22.4 feet to the addition from the North Utah Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new two-story right side addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 4403 20th Road North.
Any questions for the staff? Could we hear from the applicant, please?
I'm Tammy Moore with MR Project Management. This is Adam Baxter, also with MR Project Management. We will actually be taking the existing sunroom on the right side of the house down to the foundation, rebuilding it, and adding a bedroom over the top.
And the rear addition
Approved by right.
is approved by right.
Can be approved by right.
Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Smith?
In the case of V-1110-16-UP1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the use permit as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is case number V-11112-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Garcia Valentina Reyes to permit a setback of 8 feet to the existing building from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new two-story rear addition on a non-conforming semi-detached two-family dwelling. It's in the R27 zoning district on a premise known as 2122 South Parliament Street.
Do we have any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name is Glenda Vasquez, and I'm a friend from Ms. Garcia. She's right here next to me. The proposal for to build the addition to the house is because she has two teenagers and one mother that is getting older, and she want to take care of it. And as you can see, the space is really, really tiny. And the house was built in 1945, and it's not according to the 10 feet setback. It's only 8 feet setback right now, the existing one. The one we propose to build is going to be in accordance with that 10 feet.
Any questions for the applicant or the staff? have a motion?
I just wanted to make an observation that I really like the sentence in the staff set that says, many of these surrounding dwellings have been added to in a similar fashion, but were approved by right due to previously incorrect interpretations of the ordinance. That's a dubious precedent. In any case.
It wasn't being enforced properly.
I get it.
When did that occur? This is the addition of 50% of the existing.
No. That's the variance. This one's not exceeding the 50%. But before, the way staff was looking at these was just like a single-family home where you could add to a non-conforming home by right as long as the addition meets. But in this case, since this is a two-family dwelling, it comes under that clause where it says you have to bring the existing building into compliance as well as the addition. And so that wasn't being interpreted for people adding on to two-family dwellings in that fashion. It was just like a one-family. People were adding on and getting it approved by right. So it took somebody bringing that up to us, actually, one of the staff members, for us to change the way we were doing it.
Progress. I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-11112-16-UP1, subject to the conditions in the resolution.
Second. It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. I think I heard first. I'm not good here. To approve the resolution granting the use permit with conditions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brings us to our last case of the night. This is V-11113-16-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Romana Campos to permit a setback of 8.5 feet to the deck and pergola and 19.4 feet to the grill structure from the 33rd Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. So the construction of a rear deck with a pergola and the built-in grill structure. This is in the R10 zoning district, premises known as 4845 Little Falls Road.
Questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening. My name's Romana Campos, and wanted to just provide a little bit of justification. Do you see the cement sidewalk there? So we've owned the house for 27 years, and we've never done anything to improve our yard because we've been basically waiting for a chance to do the landscape design, the native garden, and the deck at the same time. So we have a pretty ugly looking splintered deck right now. And because you can't really tell right there, but we are at the end of a hill. So when we walk outside of our house right now, we're basically on public display. We've never, it's not that we want that much privacy, but everybody who walks their dogs basically down the street, we just can never have that kind of privacy. So our plan with David Marcianek of Revolutionary Garden, he designed it so that we would just have a landing, and then we would go down, and then down. And then our plan was to move laterally instead of move towards that oak tree, as you see. That's why if we move laterally, we're basically going to try to use the cement area as our footprint for our deck expansion. And we would be taking out that concrete, so we would replace it with a more permeable decking. And that is part of our design for our landscape, is to improve the erosion factor. As you can see, this doesn't really show the angle of the hill, but we do have a lot of runoff. And as you see the dirt along there, and there's always a pileup of dirt all along that cement part. And that's the part that we are going to replace with pebbles and the drainage system, and we would be that's basically as far as the deck would go where the cement is. It's just because we are at a end of a hill and we are an odd design in a corner that forces us to move laterally, and that's why we're so close to the setback.
Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Staff has proposed a different setback, a 15-foot setback. Had you considered staff's recommendation?
I hadn't heard that recommendation, but would it help at all to know that by the time we are into our setback, we're only 8 inches above the ground? We're basically trying to have a deck where you just walk through it versus walking on the ground. So there's a good part of our deck that's just 8 inches.
To follow up on Ms. Malice, the area that's only 15 inches off the surface is that larger part. There's a small triangle. It looks
Yeah,
like...
where you see where you see the cement, that probably would be the part where it's about 8 inches from the ground, at the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost level to the ground.
As on that corner also. Well, yeah, the pergola is on that corner.
And
of
we're
it.
willing to redesign. If you could see there is a pergola that is in front of our yard that's kind of a complementary design. And in the springtime, we have flowers and everything growing over it. So the pergola would be similar to that, but we're willing to lose that if that means, if that's probably the only part that would be visible over the fence. The rest of our design would actually lower it so we wouldn't have a lot of decking visible to neighbors.
And the deck is going to follow it's not going to be any closer than the house is actually on that corner. It's following the line of the house.
But it is close.
Can you show that picture again?
Closer because it's going back further, but I mean, it's not...
Because of the angle, property line.
Yeah, it's following the line
That
of the house.
line that you see on the corner does go to the edge of the house, if you follow that same line. It goes to the end of that house.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the back of the house towards the oak tree, the yard is sloping up, or it's coming down from the hill. So that's why your deck essentially comes out and sort of heads for the ground. It gets closer and closer, and that's why it's shorter at the far end. It's 8 inches, as you say.
Right.
At the end where the pergola is.
Because we're having 2 landings. We're only going to have a small landing as we walk out, and then steps going down. So probably where you see that first fence would be the lowered steps. And as you see those steps going down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, around where the second step is where the deck would start leveling off. And we're going, as I said, we're going this way versus out towards our neighbor's yard because we do have a lot of water that comes right down from our neighbor's yard, and we have 3 trees, 2 maples and oak, and all the roots. It's just full of roots. The best I've been able to do is put mulch, but with this landscaper, and I brought his plans along. He has really good ideas for how to prevent erosion by just using plants and pebbles and creeks and things like that. So that's what we plan on doing on the space that's between the 2 trees. And we do have the support of our neighbors. The neighbor immediately behind us wrote a letter of support. In fact, we consulted with her about the design because we really liked her yard. Christina Pawsey. As you could see, the only thing affecting her, the only visibility she has to our backyard is from her driveway. And we did get a letter of support from our neighbor that would be immediately across the street from us on the 33rd Road side as well. But there's basically not, if anything, it's going to be a big improvement over what we have right now. and particularly having to do with erosion of our yard. Thank you.
Ms. Freshman?
I've also had a house with a problem like this with big trees and inability to deal with it. I guess my feeling is that I'm less bothered by what is essentially ground level decking, because it's better than walking on mulch or in mud, than I am with the pergola sticking up, and it sounds to me like she's willing to let that part go, which is the visible part.
That seems like a solution.
Is there a motion?
Well, I guess I would ask the staff if we used the alternative but deleted the pergola. Does that work for you? Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Ms. Campos?
My question would be, would the alternative be what we're requesting, or are you?
It's what you're requesting minus the pergola, which you said was okay to go.
Right. We could let that go.
Decking is more important.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternative resolution, approval as advertised with the exception of the pergola in use permit 11113-16-UP1.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith, to approve the request minus the pergola.
As
All
advertised.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome. Before we adjourn, I'd just like to say that it's been a great honor to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And if I were not moving, I would request to be reappointed to continue to work with all of you. I've had the great privilege of working with you in different capacities. Judy was on the Planning Commission when I was its coordinator. Charles was on the BZA when I was zoning administrator. At one time, for 1 year, I had Drew's job for 1 year before I became Planning Commission coordinator. And I have told people up until last year that, you know, I wouldn't even leave my house, let alone, unless I had to, let alone get out of the county. But that's what I'm going to do, and it's just been great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for your
Thank
service.
you.
Service to the county.
You'll be sorely missed, especially.
Service on the board, service as a friend.
Well, I appreciate that. We're leaving, you know, somebody mentioned, I think it's the lady from Lion Village, about their friends, and that we're friends with everybody around us. And we won't be able to do Halloween anymore.
I'll miss bumping into you at the Arlington County Fair, or Bobanitas.
Or Bobanitas, which we did last week. And I also want to commend the staff. I'm the biggest defender of the staff, so it's too bad for y'all that I'm leaving the county, because I defend you to my neighbors of almost every day. One member of the staff or another, and get quite riled up over that. I just never thought I would ever leave Arlington, but that's what it's come to. And I'm not going to be that far. You're going to see me. We might even come to the farmers market on Saturdays. We actually have friends at the farmers market that come from Hanover, Virginia, that we come to see every week, and we buy our tomatoes in the summer and make many, many jars of sauce of different kinds and so forth. So I'll be in Arlington every other week for one thing or another. So and that was part of the reason we decided to go to Warrenton, is because we were sort of getting out where we could afford something, but yet we were still and had the same TV. If you go at the right time of day, you can get into town in 50 minutes and that kind of thing. So thank you all very much.
You have one more official act. I move that we approve the minutes from the December 16, 2015 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second with one correction, that we correct your name.
Yes,
Last
Mr.
motion,
Smith.
I've mentioned it to, on the very last page, the very last, just above motion to adjourn.
You can let me know, I can come in and sign them when you redo it.
You mean Mr. S.O.U.?
Unless you want to get out of the
S.O.T.H.
office and
Yeah.
Arlo will let you come over to the house.
S comma OTA.
Yeah.
The dogs know him very well now. He can get in the yard without getting eaten up.
Yeah. True.
And I hope you don't get variance requests on the lot I just sold. I don't think you will. I don't think you will.
They're not. It's a good-sized lot.
Wow, this is amazing.
I think we're going to defer the October minutes, correct?
Did we decide that we needed,
Terry won't be able to sign them, but if Paul's here, we have the other four. So,
they weren't in the packet. They were deferred to this meeting, but
yeah. So we're missing a member again, so.
Is that a speaker slip I didn't take?
Who said that first?
He
Judy?
spoke anyway. Oh,
And then Charles, yeah.
he is my design. Well, I won't see you once a month guaranteed, but I'll come down here to.
Said the same thing.
Crazy.
Well, a few of those deferrals, I think we would have been here a while on the Upton Street property and a few of the other ones as well, so.
I needed a notary. I mean, that wasn't the only
You're
reason.
talking about Barnes's case with the, they're going to have this.
Yeah, I think they can do the split lot, but that involves tearing the other house down and building two new ones. I don't know.
I came and found Essie, and she said, no, Cheryl's left. So I got Dennis Sumlin. I went to the manager's office, and they said everybody in civil rights was a notary. And I went in there, and I got to see Dennis, who's retiring, so that was good.
did you make that motion to adjourn?
Yes, we did, yep.
Wow.
So these,
That is something.